And welcome back to season 3 of Over Underrated. And this is the sound of me walking around my flat or apartment, depending on where you are in the world, and looking out of the window to see a workman by a school. This is my view. Please tell me yours. We have chosen to do Sweden as our opening episode because I'm a Swedophile. That is a Swedophile, and I've always wanted to bang on about Kent. So Babs has chosen ABBA as the overrated pick for us to have a lovely debate. We've both made a playlist. I enjoyed making mine. I'm not too sure about Babs, and we will discuss both of the bands. So, cue the intro music.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, what are we calling this podcast?
Was it over underrated?
Over underrated. Sous-évalué. Överschätzt. Överunderskattad. Over underrated.
Welcome to Series 3 of Over Underrated with me, Fran, and my co-host Babs. Hi Babs, what have you been listening to this week?
Hello, Fran. This week I have been listening to Halsey's new album, which has been co-written by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. It is quite interesting because it is basically pop with a 9 Inch Nails sensibility. What about you?
I have rediscovered the band The Collectible Few,
Okay.
who I reviewed about 10 years ago, one single, and it turns out they made an album. And I don't think anybody bought it, looking at the Spotify listens. But they have a lovely song called Headstrong. Check it out, guys.
There we go. Babs and Fran's music recommendations for the week. I mean, it's a nice change to us talking about what stage of lockdown we're in or how free we are. So yeah, music recommendations from a music podcast. It makes sense.
It does make sense. What are we going to talk about today, Babs?
Well, today we have picked another location to chat about. The country of Sweden. I have chosen ABBA, Sacred Cow, as my overrated act. And you have picked, Fran.
I have picked everyone's favourite Swedish band they've not heard of, Kent. Yes, Kent. Not named after the English county.
Do you actually know why they're called Kent?
Kent is a girl's name in Sweden. If anybody knew how hard it would be for English people to be Googling them 20 years later.
Indeed. Well, do you know what? Given that we were talking about who we're listening to, and I actually messaged you about them, there's a German band called Slut. Just Slut. And every time I Google them, I have to put Slut German band. And they've been going for like, I think, well, they're still going. They've been going for over 20 years. And yeah, I mean, the internet already existed, guys. You knew it.
Kent have a single called, I think, Slag 400. So,
Excellent.
they do love these terms.
In Dutch, slag means cream. So sometimes on a menu, you'll be like, coffee met slag. And it always makes me laugh.
And we all love a dick in German. But moving on to cleaner topics. ABBA, they're back. We didn't know this was going to happen, did we, Babs?
No, we didn't. So we were discussing what should we record as our first episode of season 3 or for season 3, cut as appropriate. And I think basically Fran had wanted to talk about Kent for a long time, and so of course we thought about Sweden. And I thought, you know what? Now is the time for me to slag off ABBA. And boy, am I glad that I picked them. I have some things to get off my chest.
And suddenly, the next day, the world went crazy with ABBA dressed up as characters from Tron releasing some new songs for an up-and-coming album. And I believe a tour has gone on sale already with their hologram sort of tour, I believe is what they're doing.
ABBA Voyage, right? That's what it's called. Yes, so we're not going to lie, for the marketing, this really helps. Of the marketing of this episode, that really helps. It wasn't our intention. It's been interesting to see who's involved in it, because I don't know if you saw, but Little Boots is going to be involved in the concerts, and James Wrighton, of Klaxons and Shock Machine, was that a solo act? He's going to be involved as well. I saw them posting on their social media. So intrigued to see what it will sound like. Although from the 2 new songs, have you heard them?
I have, and yeah, this is my question to you: are they going to be singing live now? So is it going to be the 70-odd-year-old lady singing now?
I don't know, but it did make me laugh. So I talked to my beloved father Paolo just before the recording of this episode, and he actually helped me put the ABBA playlist together. And we were talking about the new songs. He's a fan, and he said that he thinks one of them sounds like Angela Lansbury playing the teapot in Beauty and the Beast.
There is that, and I'm thinking, I've not heard them trying to sing SOS or Dancing Queen. Is it going to be the sound of my grandma singing SOS and Dancing Queen, or can they still do it?
It's a bad thing, like Iggy Pop still struggling on, and I think there is a taboo about pop stars being older. You see sort of Madonna constantly trying to kind of innovate to save her life, and I think in the past the way that she did it was quite admirable, but now I think she's kind of lost her finger on the pulse a little bit. I don't know. Anyway, I mean, I don't know how tiring it's going to be. Like if you were a 70-year-old who'd gone and secluded yourself in the woods for ages, as one of them did, right? Like, yeah, it's going to be pretty knackering, I'm sure, especially after COVID.
But what's going to be strange is if they are going to be having a hologram of them looking 30 years old, having the voice of someone in the 70s is going to be odd.
Well, isn't it what people said about The Irishman, the Martin Scorsese film? Because wasn't it that they used CGI to make Robert De Niro look younger, but apparently in the movements he still moved like an older man, and it was really noticeable.
I mean, I'm sure people will enjoy any ABBA on stage, I guess. It's going to make a lot of people happy, and seemingly there's more people who are happy about this than hating this.
Well, that's where I come in. So I picked ABBA because I think, I'm thinking similarly to the Oasis episode that we did. It's like they are absolutely enormous in to me, quite an outsized way. Like you can't deny their range, and you can't deny their influence. And there's, there is some good songwriting there, but just the obsession with them, I don't really understand. And I think they became really big when I was a kid, when ABBA Gold came out, and then there was that TV show that was like an ABBA retrospective, and it suddenly seemed that they were in fashion again, and they were everywhere. And I was like, okay, like they've got some good songs, and they've got a lot of songs. That's it was an interesting process to put this playlist together. Like there really is a lot, and it's not like I went, I did a Chris Webb and listened to all their albums back to back to pick the songs, because I am not a masochist. Yeah, there's a lot there, and there are a few bangers, but like there's a lot of dross. There's a lot of dross, and I've picked 10 songs of dross this time around.
I guess people never talk about ABBA being an album act. It's mainly the singles they talk about. It's ABBA Gold. People don't tend to listen to the 20th anniversary of Arrival or The Visitors. They listen to ABBA Gold. They are a pop band that's all about the singles. That's what I kind of gauged in my research. And I think looking now that ABBA Gold has been in the UK charts for 900 weeks.
Jesus. I thought it would be something like that. Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's impressive. Yeah, and I definitely found that because I realised I didn't really know an ABBA album title, I think, before I did this research. Didn't know they had an album called Waterloo. Didn't know they had an album called Voulez-Vous. So yeah, for the songs that I picked, I've had to kind of go in and see what album it is and what other singles, or what are the biggest songs. And I think what I found putting together this playlist, so Fran has already been onto me because I think that every single one is from the 70s. Fair enough, but I think it's because a lot of their 80s songs, which are more successful, even the ones I don't like Super Trooper or Thank You for the Music, I just can't disassociate them with life. They permeated so much, ABBA, whether it's a school disco or a wedding or just the radio, I don't know, being in a car with your family. Even the songs that are more famous that I don't like, I'm like, I can't pick them as hateful, especially when there's so many other bad songs that aren't as big. So yeah, I think a lot of their big songs were from the 80s, and I'm not saying I like them all, but they're definitely more tolerable.
There's definitely a change around 1977 when they become a more of a grown-up, self-aware band. The early stuff is, well, we're going to discuss it, very different, I believe. In the later years, lyrically, they're going through a divorce, and and they just weren't.
Some of the lyrics in these songs are absolutely appalling. I cannot wait to take them apart with you. Just so the way I made this playlist. So my dad Paolo, he's a big ABBA fan, so he was obviously disgusted when he heard that ABBA were being picked as overrated. But I was like, come on, Dad, like you can help me out. Give me some of the songs that you think are their worst. So 5 of these songs come from him, and the other 5 are from me. Scouring several ABBA best to worst playlists and going from there, and also kind of picking the ones with bad titles. So one of them I picked because I was like, well, that sounds awful, and then I was like, yep, it's awful. I think I only knew 3 of the songs on this list before making this playlist. And it was interesting because some of the songs that my dad provided I actually really enjoyed. I'm a Marionette, for example, sounds like Sparks. I was like, wow, this is incredible. And that was from the 70s, and it sounded very modern and interesting. I was like, Dad, what's wrong with you? But a lot of others, are shite. So, yeah. But, I mean, what do you think about ABBA? Like, I guess you can't really say they're underrated, but do you think the hype is worth it?
It's interesting because my mum had the ABBA Greatest Hits as one of her only vinyls in her record collection.
Right.
So occasionally she would play some ABBA around the house. I remember ABBA getting big when Erasure released their ABBA EP of a cover of Voulez-Vous, and that's when ABBA in the UK seemed to have a new life. And then over the 90s, they suddenly became hip again, and you would get like pop bands doing like an ABBA medley at the Brits. Yeah. And then I guess from that spark came the musical, and then the musical obviously gave them life. Then the movies came, and now I went to a festival in July, and Sophie Ellis-Bextor had to pull out last minute because of COVID, so we got Bjorn again, the seminal ABBA tribute act, and I think that people generally loved them more than anything Sophie Ellis-Bextor did, because every single person in that festival from 6 to 60 knew every single song, and it's quite a nice atmosphere when every single person is singing the same song, which is quite rare. So you got to give ABBA some props that they have still have such a pull that children still know every single ABBA song, and they constantly are in the zeitgeist. But I don't own any ABBA, but that's a band who exists. What I do remember also is when I used to go to under-18 nightclubs, in the hour of for dancing, like when they the dance fillers, they'd always play Dancing Queen, and then 2 songs later they would play Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit. So I always kind of linked them as the songs that everyone's going to dance to. But I guess Smells Like Teen Spirit is kind of like a pop song, isn't it, really?
That's a nice segue, because I was going to say, when my dad always tries to defend ABBA, he says that Kurt Cobain was a big fan, which apparently he was. That's quite funny. Yeah, no, I think you're right. It does. They do permeate the consciousness, and that is why I made this very specific list. And it was interesting to me that I just genuinely couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't consign certain songs that definitely overplayed to this list, with one exception, which is my first choice.
Overrated.
My first pick is I Have a Dream from Voulez-Vous, 1979. All the other better known songs are better. Voulez-Vous, Does Your Mother Know, Chiquitita. It's so saccharine. It's so annoying. I think I'm probably traumatized by the Westlife cover as well, because it's that was just unnecessary. And so I have seen the Mamma Mia musical, and I actually saw it with Paolo when it opened in London in the early 2000s before I moved to Luxembourg. I remember enjoying it, but apparently it's quite a recurring song in the musical and the films, and I thought, God, they're better picks.
Yeah, obviously I knew this song. To me it sounds more Eurovision than Waterloo. you can imagine someone singing this now, and it will be, you know, in the top 10 picks of that night. I can just visualize people's arms aching from waving a lighter for the entire song. I always found it strange.
Do you believe in angels?
I do, well, but also, why the sitar sound? Is that a sitar guitar in the background?
That is a good question.
It's always a weird. I always found that an odd choice of music.
But yeah, so do you agree it's shite?
It's not. It's an instant skip. I like, apart from maybe The Winner Takes It All, I like the fast ABBA songs.
Well, I think before I put this playlist together, I would have said the same, but fast is not always good.
Well, you're right, sorry.
As we go into my second choice, perhaps. So the next song is Another Town, Another Train, which is from their debut album Ring Ring, which I looked there. I don't think there's any of their known songs from there. And yeah, as discussed, I didn't know they had an album called Ring Ring. Didn't know anything, and I hadn't honestly realised I picked exclusively songs from the 70s when I did this. You said Eurovision vibes. This is exactly what this feels like to me. I put bad Eurovision vibes. It's really cheesy as hell, and I put this comment for this song and a lot of others. It just feels cynical. I think knowing ABBA later on, where it feels so personal, but even if you don't know that they're going through a divorce and it's about their life, The Winner Takes It All is just like a devastating song lyrically. But this, I just don't really believe it. And it just made me think, like, were ABBA influenced by or / trying to cash in on sort of country Americana? Because that is what a lot of the songs on this list have, that vibe. And I just don't like it. Though I will say, I enjoyed the lyric, "You and I had a groovy time." Feels very 70s. Very nice.
I mentioned that as well in my thing. It's like, when's the last time anybody just described their night out as a groovy time?
A groovy time, unironically.
I might start texting people, "Thank you for the groovy time."
Sounds like a plan. Let me know how it works.
So linking this back to your dad, he mentioned a term called Schlager, which I believe is a German pop, very popular at that time. And ABBA were influenced by Schlager, which is the sentimental crap. And also folk pop was massive in Sweden. So the rock and roll, although the Beatles became big, they still had this traditional folky vibes and the Schlager vibes of like the neighbouring countries. And that is what inspired the early ABBA. So that's why it's so saccharine. And it's like, it's almost as if like Disney was punk rock. It's like it's so horribly dull. So yeah, I had never heard the song, so thank you for introducing it to me. And
you're welcome, thank Paolo.
It was interesting to. I think you can hear a flute. Is that a flute in the background?
Yeah, could well be. I honestly, like, I've got very little kind of musical notes on these songs because just they annoyed me so much that, you know, I couldn't tell you. So it might well be.
It was a decade when the flute was in pop music, and then in the 80s they had the saxophone took over, and then I don't know what happened in the 90s. Like, woodwind was destroyed forever. Sadly, bring back the woodwind. Well,
Lizzo, you know, she plays the flute.
Yes.
In her songs. So yeah, I think she's probably flying the flag from that.
Fantastic. Yeah, apart from that, the only time you ever heard about a flute was in American Pie.
Ah, very nice.
Thank you.
and with that mental image, we talk, well, almost a little bit related. The next song is called When I Kissed the Teacher from Arrival in 1976, which was their second album. And it has Dancing Queen and Knowing Me, Knowing You, which I'm not a fan of, but Money, Money, Money is on there, and I think, yeah, that's a decent, catchy tune. So for this one, this was one that was kind of on and off the playlist when I was making it. I almost replaced it with Thank You for the Music, because I find it similarly annoying. But what won it out for me are the creepy as fuck lyrics. I mean, just the title already, you're like, what's going on here? And then the fact that I went to actually study the lyrics. At first she says she, and then he. It's like, what is going on here? Are multiple people getting kissed? Is there some kind of orgy going on with minors? This does not seem kosher.
So I believe it's their third album. I think their first album was Ring Ring. Can't say that word. Waterloo.
Oh, you're right.
And I think Ring Ring was their only Swedish language album. They did it in both, but then they gave up. So I had never heard the song in my life until I saw the Mamma Mia sequel, and I think this is the opening
so just to
song.
correct myself, Arrival is their fourth album.
Fourth album, no.
Wrote it right. Yeah, wrote it down.
Yeah. So when I saw that Mamma Mia film, I was like, oh, this is strange. Like, is this like a big hit? Because it's strange to start a film with a song that I had never heard before, and and I instantly loved it.
So you like the song?
And yeah, this is a song that I continually play randomly because it's just got a great. Well, yeah, okay, you're very correct about the lyrics. I have to remove myself about a song about a girl kissing a teacher. But in the 70s, different times they loved singing about 16-year-old girls and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, but yeah, I love the build. I don't actually like the chorus. I prefer the verse.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's one of the more favourable songs. I would say this is like I don't hate it with a passion as much as I hate the others. But okay, you like it, fine, good for you. I think there are better, but yeah, it's not annoying. I would say it doesn't grate me the wrong way, and I think there are good bits in it. So,
but I think Thank You for the Music is terrible, and that should definitely be on this list.
Honestly, it was very close. I think that what saved it was the harmonies. I don't know. Just the harmonies are very, very impressive. I mean, in other places the harmonies annoy me, so I don't know what it is. Maybe the fact that I quite like songs about music. Actually, like I really like, for example, LP Retreat by Lustrous Jackson, which is just all about spinning records and loving music, and Turn It Up by Robots in Disguise, which they name check all these albums. I like the meta nature of it, so maybe that's why it didn't make it on the list. And a song about people screaming when you're kissing a teacher. Yeah, correct response. Thank you. Yeah.
But isn't Thank You for the Music when she starts off saying, "People look at me when I start to sing." It's really nice. It's like, do they?
Well, I mean, it's ABBA. Yeah,
it's true, but I hate the intro to that, and it makes me always think of Adam Partridge. He does that ABBA medley, so I can't not see Alan singing that line. But yeah, moving on. What's next?
Moving on, we have So Long, another Paolo pick from their third studio album, ABBA, 1975. So much superior songs on this album. You've got Mamma Mia, you've got SOS, and I Do, extra one. So I think the beginning is very intriguing. Once again, sort of Sparks-esque, I'm saying. Then the sort of 70s guitar comes in, and you're like, okay, it's a bit of a left turn, but I can still get on board. And then the chorus comes in, and it's just annoying. Yeah, so long to you, mates. Like, I just go away. I was thinking of Crowded House, and maybe with Kent a little bit. Sometimes I feel like a song feels like it's in parts, or the chorus is the weakest point. I hadn't really thought about ABBA like that, but a lot of songs on this list are like that to me, and this is one of them.
It's interesting how it's almost as if they had a hit with Waterloo and then thought, we need to do a similar thing again and again, and it's like, yeah, this is like the getting worse as it goes along. Waterloo has got the same sort of bouncy glam rock. But after glam rock was
description.
But after glam rock was cool, so it's just like once your dad discovered glam and made a band of his mates to ruin T-Rex. That sort of basic. It's got a weird, odd Peter Gunn trumpet closure that comes out of nowhere as well near the end. Some very interesting discussions over instrumentation in this album, and the Waterloo album, apart from the main single, seems to be pretty terrible.
But this is not from the Waterloo album. It's from the ABBA album. No, it's from ABBA, which is a year later. I think. Oh God, hang on, let me check my
Even
notes
worse
again.
then. Even worse if it's a year later.
Yeah. So Waterloo was 74. This is ABBA 75. I mean, you're spot on that they're trying to recreate that, and Mamma Mia, SOS, and the others, much better than this, for sure.
Oh yeah, Mamma Mia and SOS are two of my favourite ABBA songs, definitely. Shocking filler.
Indeed. And the next one, Jesus fucking Christ. So People Need Love from their debut album, ring, ring. So my notes are, I'm going to read them to you in order. This wouldn't be out of place in a situation where you think it's a hippie commune, but it turns out to be a patriarchal cult. The tune is basic as fuck, and the key change, the motherfucking key change in capital letters. It's just awful, cynical, saccharine tat. I think this is my least favorite on the list. And I mean, the lyrics are appalling. I mean, I know it's the 70s, but still, man has always wanted a woman by his side to keep him company. Women always knew that it takes a man to get matrimony and harmony. Everybody knows that the man who's feeling down wants some female sympathy. Gotta have love to carry on living. Gotta have love till eternity.
Yeah, this is their first ever single, isn't it? And I think Benny and Bjorn made an album themselves, and then they got their wives to be doing backing singing, and then they thought, oh, hang on, we need to get them into the act as well. And so this was like ABBA's first proper single. Do you know Bugsy Malone, the musical?
I've seen the film a long time ago.
It sounds like
not the musical.
This sounds like it could be from a shit version of Bugsy Malone. It's just, yeah, you can tell why people wrote off ABBA for being uncool in the 70s, because a lot of people, if this was the first thing they ever heard by ABBA, it must be hard to shake off. You know what I mean? Like, if it didn't start well, you can see why people really hated ABBA for the first 2 or 3 years. It's a struggle, and I think maybe them touring the world and coming to the UK made them embrace new ways of making music, and they became better songwriters as it went along, because the first 2 or 3 years, and we're going to hear some others, very, very bad music.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not just the music that's bad, it's the lyrics, and again, it feels so inauthentic. I couldn't believe it, because that's actually not it's not a word that I would associate with ABBA, but I felt it over and over again, like making this playlist and listening to those songs, where I was just like, it feels like an exercise in songwriting, an exercise in like, okay, now we need to write a love song. Oh, okay, now we need to, do a little folk vibe thing. And yeah, this was another Paolo pick, and yeah, in a way, thanks, Dad, but never want to hear it again.
Do you think that because the first 2 albums they were writing in Swedish, that they had a more simplified version of English because they had to convert it, and when they knew they had dumped Swedish, they fought harder to make their lyrics better in English, maybe?
I mean, that definitely could be the case. I think writing a song in your second language it's a challenge, right? And I think I mentioned before in another podcast where, Celine Dion, who, famous for singing lots of songs in English, she's like, yeah, I still prefer to sing in French because it just, there's less of a barrier. And I do wonder about the pop stars, even if they're Swedish or Flemish or another nation that speaks very good English. I'm like, can you ever really kind of inhabit? But there's no excuse for the sexism in these lyrics. The heterocentrism of these lyrics is just appalling. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad they found other themes. Let's say.
Yeah, they went from Honey Honey to depressing divorce in 5 years. It's quite
Indeed.
a journey. Quite a journey.
And Honey Honey is my next pick. And it's from their Waterloo album, which is their second album. Waterloo almost made it onto the list, but I think once again, actually, the intro and the bridge, the verses is what makes it for me. Like, the chorus is a bit annoying, but the way that Waterloo starts, where it's just like, you're immediately like dun, 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 dun. I think that's quite original, even if absolutely overplayed and slightly annoying chorus. But Honey Honey, my god, it's such an annoying song. I think ABBA should be banned from using the word honey, because it's in, I think, So Long as well. They say that a lot. So if I ruled the world, I would ban them from using it again. There's a few kind of this kind of call and response harmony thing going on in the bridge that I can appreciate, but yeah, mostly frustrating.
Do you reckon they wrote this because of the song Sugar Sugar?
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know.
It's like, again, in the 70s, it's all about, girls are sweet.
Yeah.
And, they taste lovely in chocolatey.
Don't you just want to lick them? Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like it when they do have the male vocals. It's quite rare to hear the men in the ABBA songs. I quite like that. I think that's why I quite like where what is it, does your mama know?
Yep.
When it's
Yeah.
I like I think I said it's got some nice synth lines, but it's not as bad as the B-side to this called the King Kong song.
Yes, I heard that. I listened to it, but it didn't make the cut.
I'm sad that King Kong wasn't mentioned in the film. I would like to see that happen, but hey.
There's been so many remakes. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
Over underrated. Sous-évalué. Överschätzt. Överunderskattad. Over underrated.
And yeah, the next pick is also from the Waterloo album, Dance Brackets While the Music Still Goes On. Another Paolo pick. And yeah, another intriguing beginning that turns into boring 70s fare. Hear the harmonies annoy me. And look, it's another motherfucking key change. So, not from my side, not much more to say than that.
Yeah, I put down, it's why the key change. And after you've had the chorus 7 times... Do you really need to have 3 more? Like, come on, like you can't just fade out. The DJ on the radio station is not going to play the song to the end. So, yeah, just make it 2 minutes long. If you run out of ideas, just end the song.
But, yeah.
And it drags on. It drags on.
It drags on. And I think that's why I'm slightly... So I listened to the 2 new ABBA songs after I finished preparing for this playlist. And I Still Have Faith in You has a key change and it's 5 minutes 10 long, and I was like, why have they gone back to this? Like, I was really hoping it would be a bit more forward facing, although I do understand, like, again, we're in a pandemic, people want to feel nostalgic. It kind of doesn't surprise me that with the new songs they've gone in the way that they have, but yeah. The next pick is from their 5th record, ABBA the album, also known as the album. It's called I Wonder, and yeah, I had to kind of look this up on Wikipedia. So it includes 3 songs from their mini musical The Girl with the Golden Hair, which they performed in 1977. And Wikipedia says that I Wonder, which is one of the 3 songs, received a less than tumultuous reception during the first performances. One of the other, so the other 2 songs were Thank You for the Music and I'm a Marionette, which we both mentioned, as positive and negative. This one is so... I put boring, twinkle, twinkle, drone, drone, drone. I usually listen to songs twice. I found it so hard to listen to this song all the way through twice. And I wrote that it was a faulty Disney song. Like, again, just trying, failing.
Yeah, when I first listened to it, I thought, this sounds like musical theatre. And then I read the same review it actually is musical theatre. I think maybe if it had like a big musical theatre voice that made it better. I don't know if her voice suited it or was big enough for the song. I did read that it was also in the deleted scenes of the last Mamma Mia film as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
They went from I Have a Dream, and then later on they had I Wonder. I think it's like a link to it, but I've not seen it, and I will probably not be watching the deleted scene either.
You're not. I'm shocked. Clearly you're not that much of a film buff. Yeah, I think it's one of those songs where, like, I'm sure that, with good visuals, with the nice staging, it could sound a bit more epic. But yeah, it's really not my cup of tea.
But speaking of songs you couldn't finish, bring on my friend me and Bobby and his brother. Do
you want to know what the only note was that I made for this song? I want them all to drown.
What?
Her, Bobby and Bobby's brother. Oh my god. My god, yeah.
Did you know this song? Was this your dad?
No, this was a new discovery for me. This was a new discovery. I picked it because I was like, well, this sounds like some country Americana shite, and it kind of is country Americana, or maybe like you say folk pop shite. It's awful, guys. If you don't know it, check it out. Come back to us, but it's just bad.
Yeah, I put down, this is the lovely story of a Swedish gangbang, though the names are changed to protect the innocent. Sadly, in my reality, it was Wayne and Jill's sister being fingered under a dying oak tree. I never want to hear the song again. It's like being given cheap chocolate and then being forced to drown in the melted version.
See, we both put drown.
It's the worst song.
We both put drown. That's how it made us feel.
It's the worst song I've ever heard by ABBA, which will now mean people will want to hear it.
Yeah.
But don't. Your curiosity will kill you. Please ignore this song.
And, I finished on... I've put a less hateful note. Bang a Boomerang, which is from, ABBA 1975. This is a Paolo pick. There are worse, as discussed, but the chorus and the lyrics are just... And I mean, shall I read out the chorus in a non-singing voice?
Although they don't even bother writing words.
Well,
isn't one of the chorus like or something?
I've got it written out. I hope you're ready for my performance. Like a bang, a boomerang, dum be dum dum, be dum dum. Oh bang, a boomerang, love is a tune, you hum de hum hum. By giving away, I think you'll learn, you'll get love in return. So bang, a boomerang is love, a boomerang is love. Thank you very much. I'm here all week. It is very sing-songy. I'm trying to think, in Greece there, we go together like... That's fun. They do it in a fun way. It's dynamic. Here, hateful. After I said it's less hateful. Not hateful, but just pushing my buttons, basically.
It's unfair though, because the actual melody is actually not too bad, and it could be like a song by the Sweets or something, but the chorus is unforgivable. I remember I had a CD called 70s hits, and it was £2.99. I should have known better, and what it was some really cheap covers of 70s hits, but by a cheap keyboard and a guy just singing. And this was on there under ABBA, and I thought it was a lie. I didn't realize it was an actual ABBA song. I thought it was a sound alike. I couldn't believe that ABBA would actually have recorded this, and I'd forgotten about this until yesterday when I listened to it. So thank you.
Okay, well there we go. I can take it on the melody. I would agree that there are some. Again, with a different structure, with the different parts, with the different fucking lyrics, it could be much better. And I'm glad to not finish on me and Bobby and Bobby's brother. But just really when you take a step back and you think of, I think, so my favourite ABBA songs are Lay All Your Love on Me, Gimme Gimme Gimme, and Voulez-Vous. And just what's going on there and all the things and how, uplifting it is, and the way that they use, different instruments. There's often very good bass on ABBA. Lay all your love on me. So my dad has a piano, and when I was over in Luxembourg, I was trying to learn the end bit, the kind of keyboard solo at the end. The da 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 da. It is so hard. It is so hard. I practiced for maybe a couple of hours, and I couldn't get it. My piano playing is not perfect, but I'm playing with one hand. It shouldn't take me that long. So I can really appreciate some of their songwriting and some of the ways in which they're innovative. But I do think that there are people who do these kind of saccharine ABBA songs. And I felt so disappointed when the new songs were exactly like that. So it just kind of vindicated me, I felt. Because I was like, oh God, if they've now produced really good songs, this is going to seem very mean-spirited. Actually, no. Do you know what? I'm happy. No regrets. ABBA are overrated.
It's interesting that the 3 songs you chose were the 3 songs on the Erasure EP.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the first time I had ever heard Lay All Your Love on Me was the Erasure version.
Right, do you know that Ash have done a version as well? That's pretty good.
Have they really?
It's a pretty good one. My family have Pop 20, the Erasure kind of sort of greatest hits, and Take a Chance on Me is on there, which I always enjoyed. I think it has a nice twist. I didn't realise that they'd done all this. I actually didn't know that Erasure had an ABBA EP, and I was thinking I should maybe check that out after this episode.
I would never go out of my way to purchase an ABBA album. I like the fast songs. I like Mamma Mia. I like what Does Your Mama Know, SOS, When It Takes All, and a bit of dance. Voulez-Vous and a bit of Dancing Queen. Maybe 10 songs, but are they the best pop band of all time? Not really.
No, exactly. I think that's it. There would be other candidates who, of course, now I can't think of. But I think just the outsides of their influence, the fact that so many of their big songs are from the 70s and the 80s and they still permeate, it is a bit surprising to me. I guess they do have different genres of music. Like, and actually, one of the songs that my dad gave me is like, oh yeah, they went disco on this album, and I didn't like it. And I was like, actually, no, that sounds much better than what they were doing. And I guess they did sort of innovate with the times, which was impressive. And maybe it is the thing of like a bit like Fleetwood Mac, like the fascination with the personal life and that kind of bleeding into the myth and the fact that I'm sorry, I don't remember which of the ladies kind of went and was a recluse in the woods sort of thing, and I
think Agneta.
Agneta, then it feeds into it. But I really think, well, the only band that came to my head that I'm sure you'd agree, I'm like, Duran Duran or someone like that. I don't know, like I feel like there are other candidates who would be better.
Well, I'm happy you say that Duran Duran are one of the best pop bands. That's a nice thing to say. But yeah, I mean, I prefer the Pet Shop Boys. They've got better pop songs. But have they influenced people? Has there ever been a band who had that dynamic? I don't actually know. Maybe Ace of Base a little bit.
Ace of Base could have been another one for Overrated. Although I think it's a bit difficult. So I really love Happy Nation, the album. It's a family classic. We listened to it on tape in the car. We went on holiday to Suffolk. I remember very very nice memories from the 90s. But they have some annoying songs as well. Like Happy Nations has a bit more of an edge than the other ones. And I guess ABBA were a band writing their own songs as well, right? With Benny and Bjorn, unlike many others. Mm-hmm. So there definitely was less manufacturing going on. But yeah, I can admire the breadth of genres, the flexibility, some of their songwriting. But yeah, I think we both agree that.
That was part one. Thank you for listening this far. ABBA, Overrated, dun dun dun. Well, I mean, I guess you knew that was going to be the case probably if you've heard this podcast a few times. So we're now moving on to another part of Sweden with Kent. Enjoy the underrated choice.
Underrated.
So, who have you chosen?
Well, I have chosen Kent, and Kent are a band that I've been banging on about for the past 20 years. But let's pretend that it's the year 2000, and I was a big fan of Suede, and before social media was massive, you had to go onto forums to discuss with other people about music. And then I found out that Suede are massive in Sweden. And then when I started talking to Swedish people about music, they said, hey, do you know Kent? And I was like, no. And then a mixtape found its way from Gothenburg to me.
Very nice, because this was the 90s, I imagine, yes.
Yeah, I then got given a mixtape of Swedish music, I'm like, all in English. Mm-hmm. And then one song was 747 by Kent. And I was like, oh, wow, I am liking this. And then I tried to buy it, and obviously you cannot buy it in England because they release it in England, but obviously that CD lasted a week before being put into the bargain bin. So I had to then order them off the internet, and then I came across two English-speaking albums, Isola, or Isola,
it means island, right?
Isola, and Hagness to Hill. And they were two albums that Kent did in English, because they did two albums before, from I think 94 and 96 in Swedish, and then they thought, hey, we want to broaden our horizons and take over the world and release music in English because, And then they toured the UK, and I think they did some festivals, and nothing happened. And I think my friends saw them playing the Scala to 100 people, and they said they look miserable.
Oh, bless them.
And if you see any interviews on MTV, they just seem really depressed, and they don't seem comfortable. They don't seem comfortable at all speaking in English either. Mm-hmm. And I think they must have thought, okay, we're playing arenas in Sweden. We've got to this stage. Do we really want to go back during the toilet market again? And they gave up. And then from 2001 onwards, they've just sung in Swedish, which maybe would have closed the book for a lot of people, but for me, luckily, I think with the Swedish accent, it's very hard to tell it's a foreign language. And so many times I would have them on in the car or around the house, and the person with me had no idea they were singing in a foreign language.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And when in my preparation for me making this playlist, I was at a friend's house and I put on a song, and after 2 minutes I said, "Oh, have you noticed anything?" And I went, "What? They're singing in Swedish." And are they? And yeah, so it's still the same. It's like, I think a lot of bands from that era, I think that I guess the accent must be similar. There's no harsh sounds like in maybe Russian or Turkish, so I think they can get away with.
Yeah, Swedish is Paolo's favourite language. Going back to my dad, because he's just like, it's just so lyrical and beautiful, and it is a nice language. But yeah, to not notice that it's not English, I'm surprised.
Yeah, and so for me, it was fine. I was frustrated when I found out they weren't going to be releasing Sundance Kid in English, but it didn't bother me. And their best album is You and Me Deaf from 2005, and I've got no idea what they're saying half the time. Mm-hmm. I bloody love it. But then you think, I love Sigur Rós. Mm-hmm. I don't know what he's saying. It's just great music. And Kent, as Babs might hate this part of them, are a very melodic band, and instrumentation is very melodic. There's beautiful guitar lines and there's beautiful piano melodies. Mm-hmm. So you can get away with not knowing the lyrics because you've got so much else for me. But sadly, after 2005's album, they went down into a different direction. Mm-hmm. And they tried to become Depeche Mode.
I thought you'd like that.
You think I would like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But it turns out when they are playing keyboards, they can write terrible songs. Mm-hmm. And so for the next 3 albums, I made maybe 2 or 3 songs across 3 albums, and I lost faith. And apart from a couple of decent singles, I never got back to the love I had for them back in 2005. I loved them so much that I flew to Malmo to see them play live. Excellent. Because I knew they'd never play in the UK, and I thought, this album is so amazing, I have to see this album live. And so I saw them. They did a similar thing to what Radiohead did when they made their own tent to tour in.
Nice.
So I think Radiohead did the same thing in 2005. So they
didn't
have. So they didn't have to rely on anyone. They made their own tent where you could fit 10,000 people in, mm-hmm. so they could control the entire show mm-hmm. themselves. Wow. And then I think they toured Scandinavia in these tents, and I got to see them live, and there was me singing along to my made up Swedish.
I mean, if Sigur Rós can sing part of the time in a made up language, why can't you?
Exactly, and every time I had a new girlfriend or met a music fan, I'd always try and sneak some Kent into the lives, but no one's ever liked them, unfortunately. No. So I'm alone in my little Kent paradise, and I've enjoyed this process, because although I wanted to do this episode, I probably not listened to Kent for 5 years, and mm-hmm. what is interesting, some of the songs I used to love, I don't really like that much anymore, it turns out. Mm-hmm. My tastes have changed
over the years, and maybe your relationship has changed. So I did know Kent. I think I know them because I had a Flemish friend at school called Lieselotte, who was a Swedophile like you, so I think she introduced them to me. And I am a big fan of Isola, as I think it's pronounced. So yes, Fran and I were just saying off the record that we do not know how to pronounce this. I'm sorry. Förlåt, as we found out, that's sorry in Swedish, probably pronouncing that wrong as well, for our pronunciation. So yeah, I think we're gonna try our best / go for the English translations. But Isola, I think you can only mess it up so much, I hope. And yeah, I think I own Isola in Swedish. I think from listening to Du Vaha and really enjoying it. So I was really surprised that there was only one song from Isola on this, and it was my 4th favourite song from Isola on this, and I was like, okay, interesting. And I think I do really like Isola, but I guess I didn't like Kent enough to be like, now I will go off and explore all the things. So I was really looking forward to this episode, because it's like, oh yeah, it's definitely one of those bands where I know that they have more than this album, but it seems that this album was their biggest, so let's go and see what they sound like. And yeah, I knew nothing about them, really. It was one of those bands I hadn't really bothered to do some research. They have 600,000 monthly listens, and their top song has over 64 million plays. So
What is the top song?
Utandina Andertag, which I was like, what? And I looked it up. Why is this so big? And it says, so I think it's a song from possibly the 90s, but then they found success with it in 2010 to the point where Lisa Nielsen interpreted the song during the gala performance at Stockholm's concert hall the day before the wedding between Crown Princess Victoria and Daniel Westling. So there we go. I don't know who those people are.
That's weird.
So yeah, and yeah, so it was a B-side. It was a B-side, which is their biggest song, like by some margin. And yeah, you know, you touched upon Swedish to English. So I was wondering if, because I only knew Isola, I thought, is the fact that it sounds like it could be an English indie rock band, that's why people are paying attention. It's like, you know, we've heard, you know, Suede and other people like this before. And I, even though I speak, as you can hear, zero Swedish, I actually prefer to listen to it in Swedish. Well, I think it's that thing of that's how I heard it first. But actually, it doesn't surprise me that you say that they're not comfortable singing in English, because I don't know if it's just, if you know that it's someone's second language, you feel like, oh, they're making it. I feel the same about Christine and the Queens. Like, there are some songs where Christine and the Queens is singing in English. But with Tilted, for example, I much prefer the French version. It sounds so much better than the English version. And yeah, I wonder if that's why. I really like the singer's voice as well. It's very gravelly and interesting, and that's not so typical for kind of indie rock music of that era.
Joachimberg? Is that how you pronounce it?
Joachimberg. You tell me.
Joachimberg. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the difference between Kent and a lot of other Swedish bands is that the Cardigans, the Wannadives, they wrote the original song in English.
Yeah.
There isn't a Swedish version.
Yeah.
These guys were having to basically play a concert, and they must have the Swedish lyric, and having to keep thinking, nope, translate it to English, and it must have been hard to not because what people say to me about, they have very emotive, it's sincere lyrics, and
Yes.
not be able to express how you want in another language must have been quite frustrating for him. Because I guess, you know, people put him up, like the fans in Sweden, they put him up there with like Morrissey as, like, you know, one of the best like lyricists, you know, and he spoke to the young generation, and he's always speaking about, you know, depression and very much Swedish themes you can imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot of ice I saw in the lyrics.
There is
a lot of ice.
It's always a dark, icy city in the lonely, and all the Swedish fans would always tell me, please listen to it in Swedish, please listen to it in Swedish, and I have, but it's hard for me because I want to know what he's singing, and I want to be able to sing along, so it's hard for me to not listen to it in English. But, you know, the ones that there isn't an alternative, I'm happy to listen to that. So yeah, so it's hard for me to choose what to put on for you. I kind of did, you know, a scattergun approach of their 20-year career, so that's why I only picked maybe one song from each album, just to give you an overall sound. On Isola, I loved the song Bianca a lot. And obviously I like the things she said, but I thought you might find that a bit boring. It's a bit Oasis, isn't it, that song?
Sorry, hang on, Bianca?
No, Bianca is a bit placebo, and the single, the things she said, it's a bit Britpoppy, it's a bit strummy guitar.
It is, yeah. Okay.
So I thought you might think it is because a lot of people compare the 90s Kent to Radiohead because of, I think he's got like a higher singing register, a bit like Tom York, and he sang, you know, quite deep lyrics, and also Sammy's guitar is very similar to Johnny Greenwood's. There's a lot of like arpeggios, so like Let Down by Radiohead is an influence, I think, to a lot of songs by Kent. Like Roller Coaster has a very similar sound, like that sort of arpeggio guitar. I can hear that a lot, so you can hear that's my problem with Kent is I love Kent, but I wouldn't say they have any original ideas.
Whoa!
I can hear The Cure, Depeche Mode, Radiohead.
Wow.
Every time I hear
this
a
is
song,
your underrated pick. Wow.
I know, but I love them. But I don't think they've created their own sound. Their sound is their influences, and their influences I love. So I'm gonna like it because I love what they're using, but I don't think they've ever really created their own sound, and that could be an issue maybe in the UK. Is that we've got Radiohead, we've got Depeche Mode. What else are you offering? and maybe that's what let them down. I don't know, and maybe because in Sweden they're singing in their language, they stood out because they were a band singing in Swedish, which was quite rare, I think, for people.
Yeah, I mean, it is surprising that they've chosen to sing in Swedish, as discussed, because so many people from that country do sing in English. In a way, maybe I shouldn't be so surprised that you're saying that. And I do enjoy Isola, but I would say it does fit nicely within a certain kind of indie rock sound from that era. Having listened to your much broader playlist, it was very difficult to put my finger on them. It wasn't at all what I expected. You'd warned me that it was going to be melodic, and guys, there are so many long songs on this playlist. Fran was like, I'm sorry that I put on long songs, and I was like, it's fine. I'm like, oh my god, there are a lot. And the fact that I wanted to look at the lyrics of every single one just to get an idea, just to see if it would kind of change my opinion. I think it's the longest it's taken me to prepare for something. So thank you, Fran. It just wasn't what I expected it to be, and as kind of hinted in the ABBA section, like I liked bits of some songs sometimes rather than the whole. But we can get into it.
I guess it's harder because a lot of these I have heard a lot more than you. I assume you've maybe heard these songs twice, and it must be hard to consume an 8-minute song after two listens maybe. So it's not my fault. Unfortunately, when these guys get onto a good thing, they like to milk it, and I would love them to have edited versions of these songs. I'm sorry,
the radio versions of these songs. But I mean, yeah. I normally don't mind a long song, and I guess if it wasn't for the preparation for the podcast, and you had a bit more time to kind of be expansive about it, I would have appreciated some of them a bit more. But in kind of listening to it and trying to form an opinion was a bit difficult sometimes to do so immediately. But for some it was easier than others, definitely.
So if we start off the playlist, I started off with a song which they always end with, which is the translation, "The Man in the White Hat," from the album You and Me Death in 2005. This is, I think, their best album. It starts off with they do this quite a lot. They always start off with like an acoustic guitar or a little bit of piano, and then
very gentle.
And then they take them time to build up, and they will layer with different instruments, like a bit of electric guitar and a bit of piano, and then he will start singing, and it is Coldplay. There's one bit of it when the piano comes in, which sounds just like Clocks by Coldplay. There's the Radiohead influences on the verses, and then it has the massive U2 choruses, and it grows and grows and grows, and then it ends with the line, I think it's "We're all gonna die someday," which is quite a beautiful thing to be in a concert with 10,000 people waving their hands in the air saying "We're all going to die one day," whilst black confetti falls down on us.
So Swedish.
They must enjoy watching that situation. So it's I think it goes on for maybe 7 minutes. Is it 7.5 minutes? It's a long song.
6.5. So
not so.
I'm checking the fourth longest.
When they do it live, they add another verse to it just to give it a bit more.
I'm sure they do.
But yeah, so and I think Sammy, the lead guitar player, I think is a brilliant musician. He doesn't actually write the music; it's all written by the bass player and Joachim. But he is Johnny Marr, he's John Squires. I think he's a brilliant guitar player, which is why I get sad when they went electronic. It's like, well, why are you cock blocking this guy?
Yeah.
It's like when Johnny Marr joined electronic. It's like, can you play some guitar sometimes, please, Johnny Marr? I do like you playing guitar.
Yeah, and I think Kent do some good bass sometimes as well. Like, not complicated, but quite a good sort of steady melody. Analysing all the bits of the song, I've summarised it as so it started a bit too quietly for me. Then, as it developed, I preferred the kind of louder bit, but I found it overall a bit too stadium rocky for my tastes. Like you've put Coldplay. I didn't put Coldplay for this one. I put Coldplay for another one. But when the singer is Joaquin, he's singing more urgently. That I enjoyed. Like there's a bit where he's kind of singing and it's in one line, and I was like, ooh, like I'm on board again. But yes, it was a bit all over the place for me, and not in the style that I like all over the place, basically. But this was a great start for looking at the lyrics. What the hell is this song about? Did you look this up?
I did read the English version, and people say that so in Sweden, when they graduate, they wear white.
Yeah.
And so this is 16 years after he graduated, and he's looking back at his life.
Okay.
So he's imagining if he had a child, and he's imagining if he met up with an ex-girlfriend, and all the tears they shared, what's that mean anymore? Mm-hmm. And then he's thinking, and then apparently in Swedish is like, I don't want to live and I don't want to die,
mm-hmm.
but everybody dies. That's how it works.
Because they are the most expensive jewelry you have. Never apologize again. We finally crossed their borders. Do you remember our bloodshed, our team, our stupid crusade towards an equally stupid city? I was like, what the hell? Who's the man? Like, I don't know. Man in the white hat to me sounds a bit like horror film-esque. That makes a lot more sense. And yeah, it is. Darling, we are all going to die someday. Yes, we will all die one day. We are all going to die once. Which I think is quite a funny way to end. But yeah, so I would say mid tier for me, this one. I didn't hate it, but I didn't quite click with it.
When you see it live, the bit you may like when it goes dun da 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 ba ba da 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 da. It sort of gets faster. Yeah, they bring it all the way down and then build it up, and the drums come in, and then he does that a bit, and it explodes with glitter and everything, and everyone like creams their pants. Mm-hmm. So to me, that was one of the best concerts memories of my entire life, and that was the last song. So there's a connection between me in Sweden. That was the last time I went to Sweden too, so mm-hmm. I think I'm holding on to that memory, and maybe it's too sentimental to me. Maybe that's why I love it so, because I've played that to many people. I've put that on many best of compilations, and no one's ever mentioned it, so I'm pretty sure that it's just me. Yeah,
I don't think it's a song that people can get on first listen. I really don't.
Yeah, it's a grower. It's like giving someone it's a bloody symphony. It's like you can't start for Air France. You need to give them an entry pop song.
Give them an On Du Vaha. That's what it is, yeah.
So moving on to the rockier side of Kent,
mm-hmm.
and the song that did appear on Guitar Hero, mm-hmm. for any of you Guitar Hero fans out there, which is a Winter Null, which I think is Winter Night 2 maybe?
Oh, Winter Zero, I thought.
Winter Zero, sorry. From the Sundance Kid, which was their first album after they left recording in English, mm-hmm. and I think it's actually their biggest album. Looking at Spotify, lots of songs from this album are in the top 10 songs on Spotify, and this didn't make the album, weirdly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was a B-side. No, I've got it. It was a single limited edition. It doesn't seem to be on a main album, no?
Yeah, it became a double A-side with FF from the album.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they did the whole deluxe version, and it sort of, like Block Party 2 More Years, it then became on the deluxe version. Mm-hmm. And it's got a very brilliant Sammy guitar riff. I assume he wrote the riff. Mm-hmm. Again, he's thinking about the bleak, cold winters.
Of course he is, yeah.
As per usual.
As per usual.
And then there's a great intro, and it brings in another extra guitar lines, and has like a placebo sort of like sliding guitar sound. Sorry, and I love it. They're very good at doing endings. They all start slow and end wham bam bam. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's what he's like in bed, but he always likes to end it.
He ends it and he delivers.
It does. He delivers big.
I don't know if you remember the song Chase the Sun by Planet Funk.
Oh, yes.
The beginning is exactly that. And
did you check what year it was?
I did, and that song came out the year before.
Oh,
so
naughty.
I was like, what? And it kind of made me laugh, because Chase the Sun, obviously sunny vibes. This is Winter Zero, very different vibes. But you know when you're like, this sounds exactly like that song, and I was like, what is that song called? Who is it by? And I was just going over it like, and then I remembered Chase the Sun, and I was like, right, Chase the Song 90s, and then I think it was 2001 or whatever it was. So I, unwittingly or not, I think they ripped that off. So that was not expecting that kind of memory.
It tainted it for you.
Well, no, I thought that this was much more up my street. The chorus was a bit too melodic, but yeah, I call it the urgent cold indie ending. I really enjoyed, and then yeah, when you go and look at the lyrics, which is, yeah, I'm like, is it about finding solace in someone's arms? Because yeah, again, like they say, the town has become quiet and ugly and deserted, darling, that it will be a long cold winter. I have learned that the loss is worst when someone has slept as a child. You are my hero because you dare to be straight. You're my hero because you're just as weak as I am. All right. Okay, heavy shit. So yeah, I didn't save this one, but I might listen to it again to see if I would. Yeah, this one and the next one were more what I expected the playlist to be.
Yeah, this was an alternative indie sound, really. What was strange is like the album previous, the late 90s albums, they had that sound more, and then on the album, The Sundance Kid, it was really lacking like a rock song, and I got a feeling they may have thought, oh, we need to tour this. We need to have maybe to write a rock song, because that album definitely needed Vintinol 2. I don't know what it's called. Is it called Vintinol 2 or Vintinol?
Vintinol 2, I think. No.
Yeah. They like to add numbers. And moving on, we have Revolt 3.
3.
No idea why.
In Roman numerals as well.
And that's from Hagness to Hill. This is their last English album.
Is that a place?
It is a place where they grew up. They used to have a studio there. Right. The town is a place beginning of E, which I cannot pronounce. I can't remember how you pronounce it. Eskilstuna?
Yeah, we tried.
Yeah, they're from a small town, and apparently a lot of the songs are about him living in a small derelict town. And then when they got successful, they moved to Sweden. Not to Sweden, they moved to Stockholm, of course. But Revolt 3, again, acoustic guitar opening. They do love that, and then. I think it's a bit like it's a very much a late 90s guitar sound. It's a bit Muse, it's a bit Placebo. It's a song about self-loathing, I think, and lost love.
Well, yeah, I put a bit BDSM-y / suffering from depression. This is before I knew that was
like peel my skin so I can feel something.
Yeah, I need my cheating nerves to feel. Yeah, that was the lyrics. And
again. Similar to Vintinol 2, I love how it builds and has more guitar lines and crunches at the end, and sort of like then builds up, and then it's got like Joachim screams "I don't care" in a very emo fashion.
I like the big guitar sound. It sounds like a Revolt. I was like, yep, matching the Revolts. And yeah, I thought this was closer to the Isola sound that I'm used to. So this was definitely one of my more favorite ones. But did I go and listen to it in Swedish? I think I did. I think I listened to it in English and then went off to listen to it in Swedish, even though you'd put the English version on the hit. Same for the next one, I'm afraid. I enjoyed it, and I do agree with you that maybe in the way that it builds is a bit actually how they're more original. Like, maybe they wear their influences on the sea, but the way they do put the songs together is original, and it goes in directions that you aren't expecting.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I think with a lot of Swedish bands, they're very good at producing music. They're very good at playing their instruments. There's no roughness to Kent. It's very much planned. It's very precise. If you're into loose grunge, they're not going to be your band,
Indeed.
You can imagine they do redubs. Everything is beautifully crafted, and I do like the shiny floor pop song. I like Simple Minds. I do like that sound. It's not a very cool sound to like. People always prefer the punky sawdust sort of sounds, but I do like the shiny, glossy indie rock music, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, to each their own.
So next we have what we mentioned earlier with Isilo, with probably their most well-known song outside of Sweden, 747, named after the plane, and unfortunately also the length of the track.
See, you say unfortunately, I quite enjoyed that. This
was a big closer until they wrote The Man in the White Hat. This was always how they ended their concerts, obviously, because it's set that you always end with a big long song. It's weird to be a single because there's no chorus. the chorus is just a guitar riff. So they did in English a 3.5 minute edit where they put in a chorus, and it does not work at all. It's an awful version.
Right. Okay.
So don't.
I won't
they
check
sing.
it out.
Yeah, and it doesn't work at all. But I love the little keyboard riff, and again, I think this to me sounds like OK Computer influences, which is why when they came over to the UK, people did describe them as a lazy term, the Swedish Radiohead, and I think they hated that, and it's another reason why they didn't come back.
So this was the only song that I knew on the playlist. I found it interesting that in the Swedish version it's just called 747, whereas in the English version it's called 747 brackets we ran out of time. And I was thinking, like, is it because, so the album cover of Isola, I'm guessing, is a 747. There's a plane on it. So I'm like, did they just set themselves a challenge of like, right, we're going to write a song and it's going to be 747 and that's the end of it, and that's why. Whatever the reason, I think this is a great album closer. Like, I love a long song album closer. I like, the synth sounds, the synth strings, how it builds, the drums coming in, the guitar solo and the higher vocals coming in at the 3rd minute fit really well. But this is where I start to pull you up on your playlist, Fran, because like I think Isola has so many bangers. Om du var har, Sakamanse, and Liveraden, however you pronounce it. None of those are on there.
Can you say it in English, please? I don't know the Swedish names.
Hang on, okay. So let me.
If you were there, I believe. If you were there.
Hang on. Isola English version. Here we go. So, Lifesavers, If You Were Here, and Things She Said.
Yes,
the first strings. Is that what it? You see, I said to you that it's so in Swedish it goes like when Sakerman said, and I sing that to myself all the time. I had absolutely no idea. Yeah, I really.
The things that she said.
Sakerman. I think because he even rolls the R. Maybe I'm rolling the R for fun. And
can you? I've only heard the English version, so the lyric I like in that, he says, "Behind my wristwatch, the winter hides." Is that the same as your translation? I don't know if
What is it? Is in things that she says? Or
because I've heard also.
It's not on the list, Fran.
So 747 in Swedish has different entire lyrics to the English version. It's not even a like for like swap. So I think in the Swedish version he sings about a plane crashing. And that isn't really at all what he sings about in the English version. So he's actually changed the meaning of the song, which I find really, really interesting. And he does it a few times. So there's songs on Hag Nesta Hill, and apart from the melody, it's different lyrics completely.
That's super interesting. I guess because in a way it's better to make lyrics that you would want to fit the melody rather than just do a straight translate. And yet, just to say, like, any lyrics that I'm reading out, I've put through Google Translate. Like, this isn't official or sanctified or anything. But no, I've honestly be kind of similar to you. I'm like, I don't know what they're saying, but it sounds nice. And I don't know. I guess I do listen to music in other languages, but it doesn't make up most of my listening. Like, I would say that most of the time I'm listening to songs in languages that I understand. And I think they probably are the only Swedish band that I'd listen to in Swedish. Although, like, I did go on a bit of a hunt for Swedish acts, and there's a guy called Bob Hund who sings in Swedish, and I saved one or two of his songs. But apart from that, that's it. So, and the thing is, it's still understandable. So, like, Om du var här and Sakerman ser, like, I'm like, don't know what it means, but I can hear it well enough to listen to it. Like, he enunciates well enough to listen to it. Which, when you're listening to a song in a language that you don't speak very well or at all, because the list hadn't been what I thought it would be so far. I thought it would be a bit more indie than it was, like, just straightforward indie. And then when I saw that 747 was the only one, and the none of the first three songs from Isola on there, I was like, what's he doing here? Like, what's he trying to prove here? And I don't think you were trying to prove everything. Like, it's just that was one of their sounds, but it wasn't their whole sound.
Over underrated. Sous-évalué. Överschätzt. Överunderskattad. Over underrated.
Okay, so to the longer song, it must be the longer song. This is In Time in a Minute. This is quite easy to translate. From the album Really. It sounds like a Pet Shop Boys album. This is from 1996, I believe, and this was when they sort of found themselves. So the first album, it sounds like a first album by like guys who've been playing in a garage, and it's not fully formed. It's a bit more loud, a bit more punky, but they haven't found their voice. And this was the album where they sort of it started to sound like what they would sound over the next 2 or 3 albums. This was their 8.5 minutes track, and I just love the instrumentation and how it's produced. So it sounds to me a bit like the Ride song, The Vapor Trail. It's got a very similar sound to it. I don't know that song. I'll have to go and listen. But it's broadened out. But I just love how, like, when it does go into the music for like 4 minutes without any vocals, I just love how every so often it would have a bar with added bass to it, and then it would go away. Then it would have a bar with more piano, then it would go away. Like, it's always constantly changing, even though it's a long song. And then it climbs at the end, and then it dives back down again. And yeah, I've always just adored it. It could easily be 3 minutes shorter. And I noticed on my research today that they started to play it live again in 2014, and they condensed it down to 4 minutes and added keyboards, and it sounded spectacular. And I'm gutted because Kent never ever recorded a live album on DVD.
Oh no, what a shame.
Because they did, in the early years, they did some radio shows, and they hated to hear themselves live, and they wanted people to have the experience of them live and not after the fact. So you cannot find any live recordings apart from people with a phone in a concert. So that's what I saw. But yes, I don't know if maybe years later they will have they might release something, because they must have recorded some stuff. I can't believe they haven't. So End Time in Minute, what's your opinion?
So my notes are that it started quiet, but I didn't hate it. However, the guitar sound overall I found a bit twee. I preferred the longer instrumental middle bit. They're really good at this. And I think, unlike you, well, I think the different sections were put together interestingly, but it felt long. Like I felt the time and the minute. So I think, yeah, meh. I'm afraid is how I felt overall on this one. Once again, just like, yeah, bits, but not the whole.
It was a wild card. I could have chosen every song on that second album is very different. They had a big hit with a song called Cram, or in the UK, This Is What It Feels Like, and it's a 2.5 minute indie pop song. I could have put that on there. I don't know.
You thought I want Babs to listen to a song that's over 8 minutes. Yeah.
I thought I showcased their different versions of Kent, and so here you have all the different versions of Kent, rather than me to give you the. Yeah, well, basically. So yeah, so I'm. It was a wild card. I wasn't sure if you're gonna like it, but it's hard when I like so many songs. It's like I keep having to ask myself what is the best, and I don't know. Sometimes I choose the worst version. So moving on to the best album again, You and Me Deaf, with the first single from that album. This is called Max 500. I don't know what's called that.
Numbers and a man. I don't know. Or it could be maximum.
Again, they love a number in a song title. It's got, to me, it sounds like John Carpenter's Halloween. It's got that sort of creepy sort of vibe.
I've put that matches what I've written. Yeah.
It's got like quite gothic drums, and it's got quite gothic piano chords, and again it's like it's sinister Swedish indie with an explosive chorus. And again, I really like the guitar lines by Sammy. So I thought I'd give you a more simpler indie single.
Yeah, so my notes are, I like the jangly guitars, contrasted with the dramatic piano, the drum keeping pace. It's quite atmospheric. But, once again, the chorus lets the song down by being too melodic. So,
damn you, melody!
But it was one of the better ones. I thought, yeah. I have not yet saved a song, but I do later. And yeah, like that is the thing. Like reading through my notes again, I'm like, yeah, like I actually thought like, oh god, I think my notes are going to be a bit negative, because I didn't save that many songs. So I'm like, no, that I think probably in every single song that you picked, there's something that apart from one. There's something that I could definitely latch onto and enjoy. And yeah, this was another one of like in pieces, yes, but when the as discussed, when the chorus lets you down, it's a bit difficult to like the song as a whole, I found. But I did enjoy looking at the lyrics, and I've just put druggy as a question because
what did you find? Because I couldn't really work out
so
what
I've
it was all
got
about.
under broken clouds goes a Yeti track, 500 miles in the snow, a UFO over the lake, and in a flash I see Keats stands next to Baudelaire, like a magic a light man drowns. There are little tricks that get people, Mary Shelley's dream, so's a zigzag stitch over everything that winter hides. So I'm like, are they on acid? Are they reading some Baudelaire or Keats or Shelley and on crack, trying to cope with, once again, everything that winter hides, right? The long Swedish winter. Is it something to do with that? Yeah, I mean, and he says 500 miles in the snow, right? So maybe that is what the 500 refers to, like, going at 500, or I don't know, driving to the middle of nowhere. I don't know. What do you think?
It's always a little treat when he name drops an English word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I always hear, Mary Shelley, what's and he does it later on in the song. He mentions about 3 or 4 English things in a row. It's like, I never know. I don't know the whole picture, so I'm always interested in what reference Mary Shelley has to that song. But I guess I would never know the true meaning of why he has Mary Shelley mentioned.
Talking about a Yeti, and I guess Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein. So yeah, is it fantastical monsters? Yeah, who knows? Right in, Kent fans.
Let's move on to the hospital or Sickhus. I think it's from Rod. I assume it's Red.
It is. I looked it up. Yep. Well done.
And this is their first electronic album that I enjoyed. I think it's 2009. So we are now moving into the Hansa Studios in Berlin, where Bowie did his low albums. Depeche Mode did some albums, and we have moved into a very electronic sound. It starts off with like a interesting mono speaker organs playing, and then it takes a long time for the guitars to come in. I do enjoy them a lot when they eventually come, and then they go full pumping ending again with like a kids choir, and everyone's singing about loneliness. This is what we want to hear from Kent.
This is what we want to hear from Kent. I really like this song, and I saved it. I like the beginning's kind of intriguing, and is there an effect on his voice? Like, it sounds a little bit
it's definitely a bit
modulated,
like
right?
Robotnik. Definitely.
The pizzicato strings, like, I thought it was epic and filmic, definitely, and that a lot's going on, the synths, hand claps, strings, but it mostly works. And the lyrics are poetry, really, like, honest. Whack them into Google Translate. I'd like to read a bit. Like, I was kind of tempted to read the whole thing, but it's too long, so I'll just read like the first 10 lines or so. But I thought like, wow, like I would really like to sort of write this down and read it properly. So they took me to a place where nothing grew, to a place where only the shadows and the dust had time. They took me to a ward, a sun-bleached hospital where all the doors were so heavy that they did not require locks. They led me past rows of reinforced beds where our steps will echo long after we have all run out of time. They shout your name just when the rain hits the windows and an evil wind shakes the trees, tambourine shakers of dead leaves. They took me to a dirty beach. There, ghosts of surfers who drowned collected PET bottles for pledges. On a gravel road between fields where the flowers of evil were allowed to grow and turn eternal forest into gossip press. Wow. Bloody hell. That's like the first, I think, third of the song. Incredible. So that definitely enhanced it for me. Like, I think I listened to the song without listening to the lyrics. Then, translated the lyrics, and it kind of took on more meaning. So yeah, definitely one of my favourites.
I mean, this is what people were always surprised about with me, because to a lot of the Swedish people, it's all about the lyrics. Like, they are, like Bright Eyes, for example. The lyrics is a big part of his persona, and to Kent, it's all about the lyrics. And they thought it's insane that I had no idea what he's saying. And it frustrated them. They kept saying, learn Swedish, it'll be amazing for you. And so, maybe if we both spoke the language, these songs will be 10 times better for us. But yeah, to me, I kind of do a Google Translate and find out that, what the theme is, but I never really know exactly what they're about, unfortunately.
I mean, on that, I think, of course, lyrics add to a song, but you can definitely enjoy, and like, you know, okay, yeah, Google Translate wasn't available in the 90s when you were getting into them, and I think, yeah, it does add an extra layer than when you find out, like with this song. But you can absolutely enjoy a band without knowing what's going on. But I think it does depend on your relationship to music, right? Like, we've talked about it plenty. Like, lyrics are not the be-all and end-all. And for sure, they can enhance a song. But it's, yeah, I think Kent have got enough going on musically that you don't need to know the lyrics to enjoy it.
And you can hear in his voice, you know, you can hear when he's bleeding his heart out. You get the idea. So I enjoy it either way. So then we bring on to possibly the last single with the traditional Kent sound. Which they had kind of, so they went electro for 2 or 3 albums, and this became their new single. And I was like, yay, they've gone back to playing guitars. And I got all excited. I think the album's called I'm Not Afraid of the Dark. And I got all excited that they're going to be bringing out a guitar album again. And then, no, this was just it. That was it. The album was like a mix of like pop songs and dance tunes and, you know, whatever. It didn't do much for me. I can imagine you'll fucking hate this song. Because this is like the Man with the White Hat, but the poppy version of it, I think.
It pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. And but did you notice how he mentions like Michael Jackson, Michael Bolton, Pepsi, and Coca-Cola?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. So I think he says it in Swedish. He says there is a light that will never go out, as well, referencing the Smiths. Yeah, no, that I really enjoyed. What else did I note down? Yeah, he talks about all our ideals came from a pink 80s, which I thought was, yeah, again, very lyrical. But yeah, this was my least favourite by some margin. I wrote that this sounded like the worst bits of Snow Patrol and Coldplay. And I put that I was unmoved by the RRRs and didn't listen to the end. So
the ending's the best bit. So again, I said before, he doesn't like a chorus. So rather than having a chorus, he goes and then the last 2 minutes, the song completely changes over, and Sammy does a brilliant guitar solo, and then they're saying, "I've got 999 things I want to do, and 999 regrets," and it keeps repeating that. So. If you want to learn what the word 999 is in Swedish, they will repeat it again and again and again.
Well, so
skip to the end, and that's the best send off.
Okay.
Again, it's far too long. It could be a 4.5 minute indie song, and it's 6-7 minute song maybe.
But again, I don't think it's bad to have a long song, and I think it just requires a different kind of headspace to get into it. But yeah, like it just. I can understand why we would like it, why other people like it, but yeah, not my cuppa.
So then we move on to their last album in 2016 with Vi är inte längre då, We Are No Longer Here, or there even. Again, I knew it was the last of the album. I was hoping it would be like the best of Kent, but no, it's still in the electronic flourishes of previously, and this was maybe the only song I liked off that entire album. So I wanted to give you the different Kent, the Kent they finished with. I do like the Follow Me hook in it near the end. So yeah, I don't know if you like this more because it's electronic. Let me know.
So the effect is back on his voice, isn't it? Which I thought was interesting. I didn't really know what I thought about this song, and I listened to it twice. So I really enjoyed his voice. I didn't like the keys as much, and when it builds to the sort of instrumental bit, it loses it for me. But I've written the erasure synths, which come in on the last third, are really good. So erasure once again for very different reasons. So I think I'm going to need a few more listens to come back with a proper opinion on that one, I'm afraid.
I mean, it might be interesting that you may enjoy their more Depeche Mode-esque albums, maybe.
Perhaps a bit like R.E.M., right? Where you're saying, like, actually, the later stuff that maybe people don't like as much is the bit you're going to like.
Although they're massive in their own country, they only sold 3 million albums. That's not something you can retire on, is it really? And they haven't done anything themselves since, really. I mean, I think he randomly wrote an Ellie Goulding song.
Really?
And an Avicii song. and that's all he's done since.
Wow.
And none of the band have done anything. I checked him out, and so surely they need to make some money. I don't know what else they're doing. Maybe they got full-time jobs. So who knows?
Yeah. We're finishing on a B-side. Fran, are you trying to placate me here?
Well, I always like to promote a B-side, and this was a B-side they did in English called "We Need to Eat," but Spotify does not have it, so you have to go onto YouTube to hear it. But you can hear the original B-side to, I think, Heavenly Junkie, and it's called Null. I don't know what Null.
It means zero again, like Vinta Null. Yeah, they like round numbers. Yeah.
So in the English version, I believe it's about him living with someone with depression, and sees guilt tripping him, saying, you can't ever leave me. But he thinks, well, I have to go because otherwise we'll both die. That sort of, emo lyric. But it's quite different because this was one of the first time I ever heard him playing a synthesizer. So this would have been, it sort of stood out quite a lot. And I also kind of liked the melancholic sound to it, and I kind of enjoyed the lyrics as well for me. But I don't know what you think.
I bloody loved it. I thought I loved how many guitars there were going on. I was trying to count. I think there's at least 3. I put woozy, synthy, crunchy. And you mentioned before the arpeggios, like in Letdown. Here you hear that as well. The repeating motif throughout is almost like an arpeggio. And I think it sounds so original because it's so loud with the beating drums and the bass, but it's also grungy, like you're being dragged along at the same time. There's a lot going on. So yeah, loved it. Immediately added to my Spotify, and yeah, made me be like, well, clearly it's the B-sides album that I have to check out next.
The B-side album is really actually very good, and people got pissed off with them because after 2005 they stopped making B-sides as well. And I was like, what? This is like the whole, all the hardcore Kent fans love the B-sides because, you're the same as like the Smiths fans and the Suede fans. It's all about the B-sides. But yeah, the B-sides album is worth getting. And they wrote 2 or 3 new songs for it, and then they remixed some of the older B-sides and made them much better. So yeah, for further listening, do check out the B-side compilation. And I've not really ever heard the Swedish version of No, because I always knew the English version. So I don't know if the lyrics the same theme, if it's about that sort of someone relying on him to keep her alive, that sort of thing. I don't know, I feel like I will go and listen to all the versions and get back to you. This really it was I'm almost sad that you didn't start the playlist with it, because this would have got me on board a bit more. In a way, it was a nice closer. But as I said, looking back, like when I thought like, oh yeah, I didn't like Kent as much as I thought I would, and I think that's still kind of true. But actually, it's not that I disliked it. It's just that I either didn't know what to think of it, or it's just not for me. But I was really glad to have an opportunity to listen to them again, to get into the lyrics, and I think I will do some further listening for sure. I think that you should listen to Agnes to Hill, because it's very similar to I see the Iceland. I
think I'm saying it like it's Italian or something, but there we go.
And so I mean, I could have made a dozen playlists and it would sound quite different. So if I concentrated in the end of career, they'd be all dark synth tracks. So I didn't really know what to do. I just chose a song per album, and there you go. So definitely don't. If you didn't enjoy this is not Kent. There's many different Kents. So you can find your own version. Maybe start with Hackness to Hill. I think you probably enjoy that. It's okay then. It's lovely. It's lovely and depressing in a good way. So you've had a depressing time, Babs, haven't you? Really, ABBA and Kent. I apologise for your comeback.
No, Kent were interesting, but ABBA, like I did Kent before ABBA, and I'm glad I did, because Kent took me a bit longer. But just, I think it was very frustrating to listen to shit ABBA. Like I think I need to go and lay all your love on me. Like it always was one of my favourite tracks, but I don't think I realised how much I appreciated it musically until recently. Until I was like, that keyboard solo at the end is really interesting. Let me try and learn it. So yes, I mean definitely you would associate moodiness, let's say, with Swedes, and that's what both the bands bring today in in some shape or form. But yeah, I guess with Kent, you didn't really know. It's so ethereal sometimes that you didn't know that they were singing about depression or an icy cold winter. But no, I think I would agree that Kent are underrated. Like, they definitely deserve to be better known outside of their country, regardless of what bloody language they're singing in. I think I really knew nothing about them. I had honestly presumed that they'd done like 3 albums in the late 90s, mid 2000s, and then I was like, oh my god, they've done a lot, and they only broke up in 2016. I had no idea. So yeah, it was really interesting to delve into them, and I shall be delving further. So thank you.
Well, yeah, so enjoy Hagnester Hill. So are we saying Takya? Are we saying that ABBA are overrated?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
We both agree.
We both
and
agree.
we are saying that Kent are maybe underrated.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
that's good.
How nice.
Everyone's a winner.
Everyone's happy.
So let's sing, as usual on a podcast, with Thank You for the Music. Thank you guys for listening to us again, and let us know of any other artists you'd like us to talk about. And Babs, do you have anything to say before you go to Greece?
Delighted that I don't have any kind of paternity issues as the character in Mamma Mia. Glad that's pretty much sorted. And
as
I don't
you,
have to...
well, I mean, which you think you haven't, but
which I think I have. True. My mega my dad is definitely going to be listening to this episode. So yeah, I'm hoping that Paolo hasn't got any more secrets for me. Thank you very much. But if I might be, you might find me singing SOS on a beach. Who knows? But hopefully not because I want to be rescued from the grips of ABBA.
And you can find out that Craig, that Daniel Craig is also your father. Many things can happen. I almost said Craig David, but it'd be even more.
Oh yeah,
even more.
Is Daniel Craig one of them? Isn't it like Stellan Skarsgård and?
No, it's Pierce Brosnan. But I wanted to make it more modern for you.
Oh okay, wow, okay. I'm sorry,
you're
guys.
Young.
It is 11:45 in Brussels, and it's 11:45. I have to leave my house at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. I have not started packing. So
yeah, to be fair,
I
think Daniel Craig would be about 10 years old, so he's probably not going to be on a boat. But yes. Move on from this James Bond analogy and say thank you for the podcast, Babs, and enjoy your time in Greece.
Thank you for the podcast, the themes we're putting together, and yes, have a lovely evening too, Fran. See you.
Goodbye. Hey door.
Oh, hello again. You made it to the last part of the podcast where I say goodbye and thank you for listening. Please review, share, like, and all of those things that other podcasts go on about. Yes, we are on social media. We are OU Music Pod on Twitter and Overrated Music Pod on Instagram as well. So get in touch and see you next time. Although not in person, that would be strange.
Baby,